Hello YouTube, my name is Aonix, and today I'm going to be giving you a comprehensive guide on everything I feel can help you on Day 1 Val of the Disciple, from weapons and armor loadouts, to team class compositions, tips on fighting Scorn, and more. For those that don't know me, I like to consider myself an avid Destiny player. I have over 3,000 hours on Steam and more on D1 in PS3. I have lots of raid clears, low man clears, solo flawless clears of everything that I can, and I'm also a very sweaty PvP player as well. Alright, so this next portion of the video is going to be mostly live recorded, so bear with me if there's a lot of ums and whatnot. But I think first I'm going to go over my weapons that I'm going to be bringing with me and how you can use DIM to help make things go smoother for the Day 1. So, to start off, in the kinetic slot, I'm going to be bringing Witherhoard. It's pretty obvious as to why you'd bring Witherhoard. It's an amazing ad clear weapon. It's a good DPS weapon, just overall. Personally, I think it's the second best gun in the game right now, second only to Osteo, which I will be bringing for ad clear, as well as just it does a lot of damage to red bars if I need that. And then I have a good kinetic for long range and for close range. I brought Fatebringer for mid to long range. This one has Osmosis, so it works as my build. And I have a Subsistence Headstone Peace Bond I will be bringing with me. Outbreak is good just because you know what it is, and if your entire team is running it, it can do a ton of damage to majors and even like a raid boss. I know Outbreak was used to kill the boss in Crown of Sorrow, I believe. And so if you can coordinate with your fire team to bring 6 outbreaks, you know, maybe a strategy to defeat the boss or just, you know, anything else that's strong. Blind UGL, that one's pretty obvious. If you don't have a Blind UGL, go out and get one. It's very nice to have, and it's almost a necessity. My energy slot, I'm going to be bringing the Successful Warm-Up Bow. A bow with Successful Warm-Up. This isn't the bow I want. I cannot get a red one to drop, but if you have a Archer's Tempo and Successful Warm-Up roll on this bow, it is Void, it does a lot of damage, and it fires faster than Hush, so I do recommend bringing a good bow that will work with Void, and we'll talk about Void later. But I would also recommend having backups on each element, and we'll talk about Dim in a minute. And then I have a good close-range weapon that is Void, so I brought the Funnel Web with me. I have not farmed Funnel Web, so this is the best roll I have right now. Maybe I'll get a better one when the raid comes out. And then Ikelos is a good arc SMG, but not only that, if you don't know, Ikelos is currently doing 40% more damage to miners than it should be. So if they don't fix this before the raid, which I'm sure they will, bring in Ikelos just in case. Blind UGL, again, pretty obvious. And then the reason I have an empty vessel will be for damage swapping, which we will talk about in a minute as well, and I will also show an example. And then I brought a good DPS shotgun, and that's also what Heritage is here for as well. If it's a more ranged raid, have a Succession and another good energy sniper, or I'm sure there's things better than Succession, stored in your dim for you. For heavy, this is where things get complicated. I have a couple rockets, and each do a different thing. This Royal Entry is for damage swapping, so I'll be using this one if I do end up doing damage swapping, which is also what Izanagi is for. I forgot to talk about that. Parasite, obviously, Parasite is very good to bring. It's not a weapon you're going to be DPSing the raid boss with, but it will be something if you don't have a boss and you're fighting high health targets. It does basically 3 rocket launcher shots in one shot, so if you're running 6 of these and there's a couple of big health adds, you can destroy them in one shot. It's pretty cool. Eager Edge Sword, pretty obvious. If you don't know how to sword skate, I will be going over that. Corrective Measure is the LNG of choice that I'm bringing with me just in case there is an encounter with only ads in it and I need a ton of ad clear. I'll be using this, and Witherhoard. Reed's Regret is just in case the boss has a very high crit modifier, which is something we'll find out on Day 1. And I want to use Witherhoard with it. Whisper of the Worm, for those who don't know, is currently absolutely kind of broken for how much damage it can do overall. It's not the best DPS. Granted, it does do more DPS than Sleeper, and it's pretty close to Gjallarhorn. But it is there if we need just a ton of overall damage is why it's there. This Royal Entry is my Clown Cartridge one. This is the one I'll be using if we when we end up going to boss DPS. This is what I will be using for boss DPS. Because we'll have one person on our team running Galahorn, and then the rest of us will be using this rocket, because technically it does more damage, and I can also combine it with Witherhoard to do even more, or if I want, again, damage swapping if possible. And then this one is also the same as this rocket, except this one has tracking. So if the boss doesn't move during the DPS phase, I will use this one. If it does move, I will use this one. I know Aeon, aim. Well, yeah, I just want to make it easier on myself. And real quick, just to go over Dim. For those who do not know what Dim is, I highly recommend that you grab out Dim. Dim is a website. It's called Destiny Item Manager, and it will allow you to upload basically your information to Bungie, and you can get and see your entire vault. What it allows you to do is drag a weapon from either your vault or another character and drop it on your current character, and it just appears in game, as you can see. So I just got that. And what this has done is, I came up with this the other day. You can store weapons that you want to have on backups on other characters. For example, I am going to have Arbalest, Divinity, and then also Deathbringer, Sleeper, Anarchy, and probably Lament, depending on what happens there. And like I said, Arc, Void, Solar weapons of your choice can go on a secondary character as well. Now, what you can also do on Dim, which is nice, is you can have the loadout prepared. So let's say, for example, you're in the raid and you have a completely separate build that you want to run, but you don't want to take the time to swap the mods around. Well, Dim can help you with that. You do have to leave the fire team. You have to do it from orbit, but all you have to do is you have the build set up already, and then you just go to orbit and you hit apply. So for example, I have my entire day one loadout here, so I can play the game like normal, and I don't have to worry about preparing before day one. I just hit apply. All the weapons go to my character. You can also have the same loadout on a secondary character if your team decides that they need another of a character. Let's say you're running 4 Titans and 2 Hunters, and your team goes, we need a Warlock. You can have a build prepared on a Warlock, and then you just swap to your Warlock, hit apply on Dim, rejoin the fire team, and you're already ready to go. It's that simple. I also recommend having lots and lots of infusion material and upgrade modules for the raid, because you never know what weapons are going to turn up and be meta, or what weapons you're going to get as you go. And that's why I have blues in here. Remember, the rate is 1530, so you don't need to have 1550. I'm just keeping anything above 1530 I get in here currently. Also, I do recommend Lorenz Driver, just because it does have very good ad clear and DPS with it. All right, that's it for the first section. Real quick, I did want to show you guys how to do weapon swapping and bow canceling, as well as that thing. So let us go to Nessus. All right, so while we're up here, I'll just do it up here because it's fairly easy. Bow canceling is something that's been around in the game for a long time, just not a lot of people know about it. I actually found out how to do it only a couple weeks ago, but I've seen people like iFrostbolt use it in PvP, and I'm like, how did they do that? Well, I've actually figured it out myself. So all you're going to do is you're going to draw your bow, and then if you guys didn't know, if you hit reload while your bow is drawn, it will undraw your arrow. So in order to bow cancel into keeping the bow drawn, if you hit reload and then immediately hit left clicked again, if you're on PC, if you're on controller, hit your fire button again. Sometimes it can be a little finicky, but as you can see, I'm doing it right now. It will cancel the animation and you'll keep your perfect shot for longer. This is very nice on Trinity Ghoul specifically, and it also removes the need for that one Hunter exotic that I currently can't remember the name of because I don't play Hunter very often. Oathkeeper. But yeah, that's how you bow cancel. Now, very quickly, I will go over weapon swapping. For those of you who do not know what weapon swapping is, it's basically the triple loadout of something like this. And it results in the highest damage per second in the game that you can currently get. And that is going to look something like this. All right, now I just wanted to go over armor that I recommend bringing, as well as builds for each class. For me, currently, I'm a Titan, and I will be playing Titan for the foreseeable future. But what I recommend bringing is, there's going to be 2 subclasses that you're going to want to worry about for the raid. In my opinion, there's probably some others you can make strong, but that's going to be Bubble, and that is going to be Thunder Crash. And 99% of the time, I'm going to recommend using Bubble. If you are fighting a boss or something and your team is dying and you have a Well of Radiance and you're dying in the Well of Radiance, switch to Sentinel Shield. Banner Shield's a 40% weapons of light buff now. It will help your team out. They can't die. That'll help that. And so armor, I recommend bringing on Titan specifically. You are going to want Helm of Saint 14. Absolutely, this is a must-have. You're going to need it whenever there's something that you're going to need more health for in your bubble. I'm going to recommend Ursa Furiosa, which it looks like I don't currently have on my Titan, but I do recommend bringing that day 1. I will have it myself. Hardven Most Light is what I'm going to be running most of the time. It allows me to have my abilities back all the time. I will be running Suppressor Grenade so I can blind things, and I get my Elemental Wells. And then I'm going to recommend Line Rampants, just because if there is a parkour section, this is what you're going to want to bring. It will allow you to fly in the air very far, and you can also Eager Skate. Oh, speaking of which, real quick, let's go over Eager Skating if you guys don't know how to do it. So Eager Edge Skating is fairly simple, but if you haven't done it yet, it may take some time. So as you know, when you pull out Eager Edge, you have it for a couple seconds, and you go launch forward when you swing. Now, normally, your animation will cancel, and you won't be able to keep going. But, however, if you swap weapons, then you can cancel the animation of the sword finishing, and you will keep going forward. It's not as fast as it used to be. But what you do is on all 3 classes, this is the same for all 3 of them. If you're running Warlock, you can add in an Icarus dash. All you're going to do is you're going to swap, you're going to run, swap, jump, and then hit your glide key, jump key, burst key, whatever it is. And you can do this, I recommend doing it in the air because you'll go further in the air. But the way I do it is I run, jump, swap, swing, swap, and then hit glide. And that's all for that. If you want to know how to go extremely fast, then there's something called shatter skating and well skating. And those things you can look up on YouTube. They're a little bit more complicated. They make you go flying. But if you do want to learn how to do that, just look up a guide on how to shatter skate and how to well skate on YouTube. They're both exactly the same. All right. For Hunter, I'm going to recommend a couple exotics. One of which is, of course, Stompies for the parkour section. So you're going to want Stompies for sure. Where are they? Can't find Stompies. I'm bad. There they are. I'm going to recommend Omnioculus because most of your hunters are going to be running Invis, and being able to have that damage resistance while you are invisible is always going to help, and you get a second Smoke Bomb. I'm going to recommend Orpheus Rig because if you do not know, Mobius Quiver is currently the highest damaging super in the game, even past Thunder Crash. And also Deadfall is a very good ad clear super as well. And I am going to recommend you bring Celestial Nighthawk, just in case you need that really fast burst DPS. And, oh, definitely Renewal Grasps. So you don't know what these do. They basically turn your Dusk Fields into mini barricades, kind of. You can use them to revive. You get a ton of damage resistance in them. I haven't made a build on them yet, but if you guys want to see a build video, I can do that. I have the build set up on my hunter currently, I actually think. I can leave that linked if anybody wants to see it. On Warlock, there's also going to be a couple. I am for sure going to recommend the Phoenix Protocol because you most likely are going to want one well on your team. I'm going to recommend the Secant Filaments because you can get Devour on Void subclasses, and it will allow you to run all 3 aspects basically, and it's very nice to have on Nova Bomb because you can keep yourself alive. And it also gives the team overload rounds. I don't think that'll come into play during the raid, but you never know. Boots of the Assembler will allow you to heal your team from a distance or give them a damage buff from a distance. That's always nice. Lunafaction Boots is a must-have for DPS phases on Well. It allows you to reload faster, and it increases your range. Other than that, I'm going to recommend Verity's Brow, just because if you are using a Void build, this will not only net you 2 times as much grenade damage, but will also decrease the amount of time your grenades take to recharge. As well as Controversial does the same thing. It's a little bit more reliable in getting your charge back, but it doesn't do more damage. And if you are running Osteostriga, you could try Necrotic Grips as well. As for what you should be bringing to the raid, I personally am a firm believer that 2, 2, and 2 is going to be the best. However, because of how strong hunters are right now with their supers and their chain invising, you could technically do 3 hunters, 2 Warlocks and a Titan, or even 3 Hunters, 1 Warlock, and 2 Titans, because Titans are also very strong with keeping people alive. On all 3 classes, I'm going to recommend a Elemental Well build that looks something like this. This allows me to pop a Barricade, and once I get a kill, I spawn a Void Well. And it doesn't matter what Elemental subclass you're on, this will spawn a Void Well no matter what, so you can take advantage of that and give your Void Weapons volatile rounds on any subclass and damage resistance on any subclass. It's non-discriminatory. It works on Thunder Crash, it'll work on Well, and that's what I'm going to recommend running. But it's Reaping Wellmaker, Font of Might, Well of Tenacity, Elemental Time Dilation, and Volatile Flow. That is what I'm running. I also am going to recommend having your chest piece as Void, because that will allow you to run the Thermoshock plating for 2 of the elemental resists, and then Void will allow you to have the last one. So you have all 3 elemental resistances. And then obviously scavenger mods. Make sure your stats are good. Yeah, that's it for armor. Alright, so just a couple tips for fighting Scorn specifically here. We know the raid is going to be a Scorn raid. That has been confirmed multiple times by different teasers and whatnot. So there's 2 races, or not races, I guess, like enemy types that we really need to know some things and focus on. The other 3 are just, you know, shoot the head, do the damage. But for the lurkers, specifically the shield boys, obviously don't aim for their shield. I have anti-barrier bow on, so that's why it did that there. But what you're going to want to do is you can either do one of 2 things. If you shoot their feet, they will put their shield down and they will flinch, and then you can shoot them in the head. But if you do just want to directly shoot them in the head, what you can do is you can aim for their left ear looking thing, and that will always hit them in the head. It will never hit their shield, as long as they're facing straight towards you. Obviously, it's different. Now we will go look for some Ravagers, and I will get back when I find some. Alright, so here we go. I found some Ravagers in the Slaw sector finally. So, no matter what type they are, whether they are Solar or they are Stasis, Ravagers obviously don't have a normal crit spot. If you try to shoot their head, it doesn't do anything. However, what you can do, and I found out about this, I know most people know this, but if you actually aim for their lantern, if they'd stop moving, if you aim for their lantern is actually going to be what their crit spot is. So it's a little bit harder with the bow, but you can see I did 38,000 damage there to the lantern. Not only that, it will blow up and do damage to those around it, and I only did 13,000 to the body. So it's almost it's like a 3x crit multiplier. So if you have the capability to, I would always aim for the lantern. Okay, so now we're just vibing in orbit, and I wanted to talk about some strategies on how to keep a level head and how to be mentally prepared for day 1. Now, being in a team of 6, especially with people you know, can be sometimes get frustrating. You can get mad at each other. There is always drama in a day 1 raid. The main thing you can remember is always to listen to what everybody has to say. Nobody on the team is your team leader. Everybody has something important to say, and everybody can contribute to the team in a way that can help you guys either get the day 1 clear or the world's first if you're going for it. Make sure to bring lots of food and water with you, because if you are doing the 24-hour sit-through and just trying to do it, then you're going to need to keep yourself, you know, hydrated and not hungry. And make sure you get a lot of sleep the night before so you're mentally prepared for the day. And don't burn yourself out on Destiny. I know this is going to get put out on either Wednesday or Thursday before the raid comes out, but maybe take a couple breaks before Saturday. That way you are ready and you're excited to play. Other than that, just, you know, don't get too mad at each other. You can get mad at each other, but don't make fun of each other. Don't yell at each other. If you guys need to take a second to calm down, then go ahead and do it. Yeah. Other things that you should know about raiding, day 1 and my experience from low man raids and solo flawless content. Always be moving. That is the most important thing. You should, unless you're a Titan, you should never be standing still, because you do not want to get caught in the open with a sniper or something that can one-shot you. Just always be moving. Even if it's getting a res, again, unless you're a Titan, you can always run around, swing your mouse around, or swing your control stick around. That way it throws off the enemy's targeting, and they can't hit you while you're getting a res. I find that'll keep me alive in a lot of situations. I did a Master Vogue today, and the opening, I had to res somebody, and there was a lot of ads there, and I didn't have any way of like keeping them blind. And so I would just run around. I got very low, but I didn't die, and that overshield allowed me to get back to cover after resing him. Also, things you should look for in a day one raid when the mechanics aren't known. If you know the mechanics, you don't need to worry about this, and you can skip this section. But always be on the lookout for things that are glowing. Always be reading what debuffs you are getting. Always be caring about what your teammates say is happening to themselves. Look for items or doors that look out of place. Look for things that you can shoot and that take damage. Like I know specifically in Deepstone, when we were doing day one Deepstone Crypt, we found the panels on the wall. They looked completely normal, but when you shot them, they did take damage, or they would say immune. If they say immune or they take damage, that means they are a physical object and they do have something important to do. Unless they're like a pot and they explode after they take physical damage, like all the pots in the Leviathan raid. When it gets to boss DPS, make sure you have a well and a bubble or a banner. Well and bubble do the same DPS now, so if you want to, you could have one well and one banner, and that's going to result in the maximum DPS from the team. It's not going to result in more DPS overall, but it will keep you alive. And also, if it's a DPS phase where you need to move, for example, the Kel Echo, make sure you are moving. As for things to bring to DPS, like I said, 1 Gallarhorn and 5 Legendary Rockets is probably the best just heavy weapon DPS right now. Deathbringer alone is better than Gallarhorn, so if you can pull off 6 Deathbringers on the raid boss, that is going to be better than Galley. If the raid boss has a crap ton of health, use Whisper, and if you want to do as much damage as you can in a short amount of time, use weapon swapping. And that's about everything you guys need to know for the day one raid that I can think of currently. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Me and my day one team from Clan Dimension 7 are competing in the race this Saturday, and we do believe we have a winning chance. So if you would like to watch us live, make sure to check me out over at twitch.tv/Aonix, and be sure to drop by my teammates, SquirrelTV and Vanished_Phoenix. Links will be in the description for the 3 of us. Thanks for watching, good luck on the raid, and have fun.